Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cricket Corner podcast with me, Vatsal Vora. Well, yesterday, which was a Monday if I'm not wrong, yes, it was a Monday, I was talking about England and why they might not select James Anderson for the Ireland Test match, which is starting from the 1st of June at Lord's. Well, 24 hours later, and England have announced their test squad for that Ireland Test match. And surprise, surprise, James Anderson is part of that squad. And I'm here to react to England's squad too for that game against Ireland. Yes, I've used the word squad quite a lot of times already in this podcast. And we are just 45 minutes into it. But things need to be done. And there are some interesting picks as far as the England test squad is concerned for the Ireland game. Now, I'm not sure whether they are for trial and error basis, but I feel like the 15-man squad which they have named for that Ireland test match, Lord's, 1st of June, remember that, I feel like a majority of them will feature in the Ashes squad just to get into the groove. I think that's the reason why they have this test match against Ireland. So without further ado, let's just briefly name down the England squad. Here you go. Ben Stokes as captain, James Anderson, Jonny Bairstow, yes, he's back. We'll talk about him in detail. Stuart Broad, Harry Brook, Zach Crawley, we'll talk about him as well. Ben Duckett, Dan Lawrence, yes, he's back. Jack Leach, Ollie Pope, we'll talk about him. Matthew Potts, Ollie Robinson, Joe Root, Mark Wood, and Chris Foakes. We'll talk about him as well. So yeah, I've said we'll talk about him for 4 players now, and I feel like those are the players why this squad is interesting to me personally, being an England fan. But let's start with the major talking point from this test match squad, and that is the reintroduction and the comeback of Jonny Bairstow. Jonny Bairstow was the prime example of how to play this baseball test cricket. He was the poster boy of baseball when it was first introduced last summer against New Zealand and South Africa, and that solitary test match against India. Now, Jonny Bairstow had a fractured leg, missed out on the Pakistan tour, then was out for the West Indies tour as well, and then the England board, the ECB, did not give him a NOC to play in the IPL, and I think that all has come together for him to make a comeback against Ireland, check his fitness. I think he's fully fit and he's going to play a vital role in England's Ashes series. Now, this squad is announced for the test match against Ireland. There is no mention whatsoever about this being the exact same squad that will compete at the Ashes. But it's really interesting to me still, because I think the Ashes squad won't be looking anything different than what we already have against Ireland, and Jonny Bairstow is set to play an important role. Now, I was listing down the England squad a minute or two back, and some of you might have noticed that there's no Ben Foakes, the wicketkeeper from Surrey. And I feel like, and I'm pretty sure that Jonny Bairstow is going to keep wickets against Ireland and against Ashes. Against Australia in the Ashes. I beg your pardon, I've had a long day. So that's what's out the wicket-keeping issue for England. Now, there have been a lot of people on Instagram and on Instagram comments and on Twitter saying how Ben Foakes didn't deserve to be dropped just to make way for Jonny Bairstow. There have been, people are not complaining that Jonny Bairstow is back. They are pretty happy to see him back, the Yorkshireman. They are pretty upset by the fact that it's Ben Foakes who has to make way. Now, yes, let's be honest, Ben Foakes is not that typical baseball player. He is not someone with whom you can constantly expect to strike the ball at 80, 90 with a strike rate of 80 or 90, which the likes of Harry Brook, Ben Stokes, and to an extent Joe Root are capable of doing. He's one of those steady, low middle order batsmen who can protect the England batting lineup in a way if the top order doesn't perform. And you cannot expect, you need someone who can do that, who can take care of one end, create strike rate of 50 or 60 and give you vital runs, because let's be honest, he has had some good innings in the past summer against New Zealand, if I'm not wrong. So people are upset, and rightfully so, that there is no Ben Foakes in the team. But then the criticism come back to the ECB for constantly picking Zach Crawley. Now let's get one thing clear and out of the way. Zach Crawley is not the most popular England player in this current Test match squad. He barely has any fans. But to be honest, I'm one of his fans. I know speaking this in front of this audience who listen to this podcast rigorously, that might come as a surprise, and some of you might not be happy with me saying that I'm one of the few fans of Zach Crawley. The thing is, I know he's not had a good first-class season. Less, he's had a 90 and a really good century, but he hasn't been consistent enough. He scored a century in one game, scores 6 in the second innings, then 3, then let's say 20, then an odd 30, then again fall down, then he once again wake up one morning, feel like he is Graham Gooch and score a century. So that's inconsistent Zach Crawley, which people are not a fan of. Now there is definitely talent in Zach Crawley. I'm not saying he's not a talented bloke. If he can nail out an England squad, a place in the England squad, he has a really, really bright future. I'm not denying that. But when you look at the present and how his form has been topsy-turvy throughout the summer, taking into the Pakistan tour and the New Zealand tour, I can rightfully expect people to be upset that it's Ben Foakes who has made way for Johnny Bairstow and not Zach Crawley. Now, people have been arguing that Johnny Bairstow could open with Ben Duckett, or even Captain Ben Stokes can promote himself up the order and open the innings. I think Ben Stokes has opened innings in the IPL. I am an Indian. I have watched a lot of IPL in my life, and I vaguely remember that Ben Stokes opened a couple of innings for the Rajasthan Royals. I don't remember which IPL season it was. Maybe it was 2019 or maybe it was 2020, that COVID-backed season. I'm not sure, but yes, Ben Stokes has opened the innings. Now my rationing and the way I feel that England are thinking about picking Zach Crawley instead of Ben Foakes is the simple fact that Zach Crawley is an opener. I don't think it's wise to crop and change your batting lineup just to make way for two players. Now don't get me wrong, Ben Foakes didn't deserve to be dropped. I'll agree with you. Even being a Zach Crawley fan, I'll agree that Ben Foakes didn't warrant a drop. It was Zach Crawley who deserved a drop if there was someone to be dropped. Let's get that out of the way, fine. But I don't think just to accommodate someone or two players in this regard, Foakes and Bairstow, I don't think you need to go bizarre and drastically change the batting order. It is Test match in the end, and Test match is serious business. I don't think opening with Ben Stokes does any good to England. Now, couple of reasons why Ben Stokes shouldn't be opening for England. Ben Stokes is England's fifth bowler, alright? So, usually England go with Jack Leach, Stuart Broad, James Anderson, and one of Mark Wood or Chris Foakes or Ollie Robinson for that matter, or Matthew Potts in this matter as well. But Ben Stokes is still your fifth bowler, right? So let's say he bowls a big spell towards the latter stages of the opposition innings. doesn't get much of a rest, and he's told to open the innings. I don't think that's a genuine reason. Yes, you can argue that, well, the opposition are 8 down, just stop bowling and be fit and fine for batting. But then you can never understand what bowlers you need at what kind of situation. What if someone's pulled up a niggles, pulled up a hamstring, or has cramps, and you have to bowl again? Then you don't have much time to recover, and you go out to bat. Now, that's one of the reasons why Johnny Bairstow and wicketkeepers in general don't open the innings in Test match cricket as well, because they have been on the field for let's say 80-90 overs, and sitting there for 80-90 overs, and you go back. I think wicketkeepers need rest as well in Test match cricket. And yeah, that's the reason why Adam Gilchrist didn't open for Australia back in the early 21st century. Gilchrist was Australia's opener when they used to play one-day cricket. He used to open with Matthew Hayden, but when it came to Test cricket, Gilchrist came at number 6, number 7. It was usually the likes of Hayden, Langer, or Catich who used to open for that mighty Australian team. So that's the reason why wicketkeepers don't open. So Bairstow opening didn't make sense at all. Let's keep him aside. Ben Stokes, I think, is not. Firstly, the reason which I already mentioned. 5th bowler. What if you have to bowl and then you have to go and bat again? So I don't think that's one of the reasons. But another main reason why you cannot expect Ben Stokes to open is the fact that he is great at that lower middle order. He can come out to bat, give you a quick fire 70, a quick fire century, and change the complexity of the game. Yes, he can obviously do that whilst opening the innings, but what if he fails? Then, and when it comes to that lower middle order, you are relying on Foakes, as we mentioned, he is not one of those hitters. And on the contrary, Ben Stokes is not a genuine opener. So why cop and change and do experiments when it's arguably your biggest Test series in let's say a couple of seasons? That doesn't make sense for me. You need to retain the Ashes. You don't need to experiment, and that's why I feel like Zach Crawley's inclusion makes perfect sense. Now, do England need to find another opener? Yes, Zach Crawley needs a bit of competition. There shouldn't be it Zach Crawley, be it Joe Root, there shouldn't be a single player whose place is not under threat. I think pressure of competition makes you perform, and I feel like Zach Crawley definitely needs that. Now, there was Alex Lees who did that, but once again, Zach Crawley got the benefit of doubt. He was kept in for that Pakistan Test match, and Ben Duckett came in. Now, Ben Duckett has been brilliant, so he's not going to get out of that team anytime soon. So yeah, Zach Crawley really needs to open. I'm not sure who that is. Keaton Jennings, yes. Can Dan Lawrence open? Well, I'm not sure. He's there in the squad. Good to see him back for the first time in baseball, England's side, and under the captaincy of Ben Stokes. So it's good to see him there for a change. But yeah, that's the reason why I think Zach Crawley's in. I think I spent like 5 minutes just backing the decision to include Zach Crawley in the England squad. But let's talk about some other players now. One good inclusion, and which I was personally pretty happy to see, was that of Chris Foakes. Now, Chris Foakes hasn't been part of the England squad for over a year now. I have the ECB article open in front of me, and it says that Warwickshire seamer Chris Foakes returns to the Test squad for the first time since March 2020. And if selected, this will be his first Test appearance on home soil since August 2020. Now, that's COVID year. That's 3 years of him not being nearly 3 years of him not being part of the Test squad. And I think he's a great inclusion. If you can somehow manage to play him instead of Ollie Robinson, which I definitely don't want England to do. I think Ollie Robinson definitely deserves his place in the starting 11 for the Ireland Test match. But if you manage to play him instead of, let's say, a James Anderson or an Ollie Pope, you extend your batting lineup that much. I think you can. The problem with England is that their batting order kind of fizzles out after the wicketkeeper, be it Ben Foakes, Johnny Bairstow in this regard. So that's the reason I feel like he might not. So including him would propel the batting order further down the order. You can back till number, let's say, 7 or 8 now, because Jack Leach is, he's had a 50, but he's not a proper test match player. Stuart Broad used to be that guy, but he's not there anymore. Not that anymore. He is the night hope, but you know what I mean. Chris Woakes, good with the bat, has a test match century to his name. So I feel like including him, really, if you want a lengthy batting order, there's your option. There's also the return of Dan Lawrence, as I said. We were going to talk about Zach Crawley, which we did, Johnny Bairstow, which we did. The notable exclusion from this squad, apart from Ben Foakes, is that of Jofra Archer. Sussex fast bowler Jofra Archer has been ruled out for the rest of the summer. Now that are some interesting words. Rest of the summer pretty much means that he's not going to play the Ashes. He was building his fitness for the Ashes, went to play in the IPL for the Mumbai Indians, had to leave the IPL midway through the season because of another freakish injury, and I think that injury seemed like a precautionary call to call him back, but I think it's something really major one, and England don't want to risk their star fast bowler. So he's not going to feature this entire summer, and we wish him all the very best with his injury, and I hope he recovers well, fit and fine. Finally, he can bowl that brilliant fast bowling that he does, and I really want to see him firing yet again. The Jofra Archer which we saw at the IPL was not the Jofra Archer we all know and love. He has much more to offer, and I wish him all the best. But so he's out for the rest of the summer. So no Jofra Archer, no Ben Foakes. And so that's the squad now. If you ask me to rate this squad, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Probably Zach Crawley's inclusion, the chatter around him on social media, and the exclusion of Jofra Archer are the reason why I've deducted that 1 point. But 9 out of 10 is fine. I'm pretty happy with this squad. But just to remind the listeners, if they have made it this far into the podcast, this is just the squad for the first test match against Ireland. This is not the Ashes test match, not for even the first test match at Edgbaston. No, this is just for that Lord's game against Ireland. Make sure you keep that in mind whilst discussing this with your friends and family. So just quickly running down the England squad yet again. Ben Stokes, James Anderson, Johnny Bairstow, Stuart Broad, Harry Brook, Zach Crawley, Ben Duckett, Dan Lawrence, Jack Leach, Ollie Pope, Matt Potts, Ollie Robinson, Joe Root, Chris Foakes, and Mark Wood. Good to see Mark Wood back as well. I think I was talking about him when I thought James Anderson might not play and it would be Mark Wood in. But it's good to see Mark Wood play. I think he's returning to full fitness. Yes, he missed out on the tour to New Zealand due to not an injury of that sort. I think he was injured during the T20 World Cup, but he was fit and fine during that New Zealand tour. It was just that he was given a rest. But it's good to see him back. And Mark Wood is really capable of replacing the pace and the sheer willpower of that of Jofra Archer. And I think that's a good pick. If I had to pick a bowler who can replace Jofra Archer, it would be Mark Wood. Pretty similar, both kind of the two fast bowlers that are. But that's the squad, and I'm pretty happy to see Mark Wood back. The only thing which we haven't talked about it right now is Ollie Pope. Ollie Pope, well, he's one of those calm and collective kind of cricketer. He's never in the news. He does his job well, and he's really regained his form under the captaincy of Ben Foakes, and he's been rewarded with the vice captaincy with immediate effect. So he'll be the vice captain, the understudy to Ben Stokes for the Ireland test match and possibly for the Ashes as well. So really happy for Ollie Pope. I think he will be one of England's more important batsmen alongside the likes of Root and Brook. So good to have him. getting that promotion which he deserves based on his form. So yeah, that's the England squad. Now, I'm more interested in the Ashes squad after seeing this, because I really want to see how much different is that particular squad. Does the Ireland result shift England board's mind in picking one or the other? Zach Crawley, Ben Foakes, you know the drill. But yeah, let's see what happens. I think England are going to use this Ireland game just for preparation purposes. I don't think result matters, even though I think England are the favourites. But yeah, it's good to have the English summer. The cricket is back on, and it will be fun to see all the action from England for a change, rather than sitting in India and watching those games. Let me know your thoughts of this Ashes. Oh, sorry, not the Ashes squad. Remember, the Ireland Test match squad. Let me know your thoughts on this Ireland squad for the game against Ireland. I mean, you can tweet me, or you can send me an email. Link is there as well. So I think a Twitter is fine. Yeah. If you're listening this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you are giving me those wonderful 5-star ratings and providing me with your predictions and other stuff as well surrounding the English summer. Lovely to record a podcast as usual. I'm really happy to be finally back recording this thing. I really love talking cricket, and I hope you love listening me talk about cricket. This is me, Vatsal Vora, signing off. Ciao for now.